So this is about myself, and we'll now start the class and take a look at what are the various facets of the Rajya Sabha elections. So basically, why is Rajya Sabha election important? Because in this year alone, we have had elections for around 24 seats. So that is why Rajya Sabha elections is important. So you must have heard a few last week. So we had Rajya Sabha elections in MP, Gujarat, Manipur, and Congress. And in Manipur, there were some certain allegations about the role of the governor also, and we'll take a look at that. Similarly, in MP uh, and Rajasthan also. So this is a basic news that has come, and we'll take a look at how to interpret those news and how does it become very important for the UPSC examination. Now, winning Rajya Sabha has been very important for the ruling party because a lot of legislations, after getting passed or getting considered in the Lok Sabha, often finds that it does not pass through the Rajya Sabha because they did not have the majority. So that is why Rajya Sabha is very important for the ruling party because they want their own legislations to get cleared. So this is why Rajya Sabha is important. And as you can see, the party position now in Rajya Sabha is that out of 245, we have 102 with the NDA, with the ruling party, and around 65 with the opposition. And this is slightly neutral. So this is the composition. Although this is not so much important from the examination point of view because UPSC will not ask such political questions, but this is just to give an overview and help you understand that why this topic becomes important, because UPSC will pick up from this. They will ask non-political legal questions from the Rajya Sabha elections. Okay. So if you look at the last point, absence of majority in the first term prevented Modi government from passing key legislations. So this was the whole idea of the Rajya Sabha elections. So as you all know, you must have read in the polity that 1/3 of the members retire every 2 years. So that is why we have almost regular elections every year in the Rajya Sabha. Now, coming to the introduction, I would like you to take a look at this. Is it visible to all of you? You can just drop a message in the chat box if it is visible. So the maximum strength of Rajya Sabha has been fixed at 250. So this number is important because this is the maximum strength. But in the present times, we have only 245 members. So the maximum limit is at 250, but presently we have 245. And the composition out of this 250 is 238 is out of the states. That is the states and UTs, and 12 are nominated by the president. So nominated by the president, we'll take a look in the later part of the presentation that how and what are the criteria for nomination of the president. So 12 are nominated by the president, and 238 is the maximum that states can comprise. But in the present times, 229 is there of the states, 4 members represent the UTs, and 12 members are nominated by the president. So this is the present composition. So the maximum strength is 250, but presently the Rajya Sabha has 245 members. So basically 5 more seats can be given to states as per the delimitation and all, but it has not been done. So presently we have only 245 members of parliament of the Rajya Sabha. So basically Rajya Sabha means Rajya. If we take a look at the meaning of the word Rajya, in Hindi it means one of the meaning is states. So Rajya Sabha was seen as the representatives of the state in the federal setup that we have. Although India is not a classical federal country, but India is a quasi-federal country. So Rajya Sabha sought to give representative to the states so that the interest of the state is also kept while framing the policies and no adverse thing is done in the constitution. through Lok Sabha, because that is the popular majority. So this is why Rajya Sabha was created, to act as a second chamber, to act as a second thinking while passing the bills and all, so that in hastily or in the wave of popularity, no adverse or no extreme level kind of bills are passed. So that is the whole idea of Rajya Sabha. So Rajya Sabha is also called in English Council of States. So Council of States basically means Rajya Sabha, that is the states are represented in the legislature, in the parliament. Similarly, in the Lok Sabha, it is House of Representatives. It means the people have chosen their representatives directly. Whereas in Rajya Sabha, what we have is, it is indirect mode of election that we'll see in the later part of the presentation. Now, this is the most important and the most confusing part of the whole election process of Rajya Sabha. So, in the later part of the presentation, we'll see what exactly is system of proportional representation and what exactly is single transferable vote. Now, this is the most important part of the uh, Rajya Sabha elections. So, generally, the Lok Sabha election is direct. It means first past the post system we have, and whoever gets the majority of the votes, he will win. But proportional representation by single transferable vote is slightly different. It is slightly different. So we'll see about that in the detail. But there are two words in this which are different and which you need to remember, is that proportional representation is different and single transferable vote is different. And these two are merged. Okay? Now, this system is also used in some other elections in India. For example, the election of president. Again, we have the same mechanism. In the election of president, we have the MLAs and MPs voting in the elections. They form the part of the electoral college. Similarly, in the vice president, again MLAs and MPs vote in the election of the vice president. Similarly, in the election of the proportional representation means that each community gets represented in the proportion to which they have their their population, for example. So this is proportional representation, that every segment of the society gets represented in the legislature or in a committee. So that is proportional representation. Similarly, the seats are allotted in the Rajya Sabha based on the population. So this was decided in 1947, and after every 10 years, it was supposed to be changed in through the census, and the delimitation commission was to be formed, and then the composition of these 245 members, it was supposed to be changed. So we'll deal about this in the later. This is just the introduction that I'm giving. So we'll see how delimitation affects and why was it stopped, how the seats allocation in terms of population was opposed by many states. So we'll take a look, detailed look in the last part of the presentation. Now, out of union territories, so there are 9 union territories, especially after the removal of the section 370. And Delhi, Puducherry, and Jammu Kashmir have only representation in Rajya Sabha. The other 6 union territories, for example, we have Chandigarh, Daman Diu. So these do not have representation in Rajya Sabha. They have their seats in Lok Sabha, but they do not form a part of the Rajya Sabha. So this is for your information, and I think they can ask in the prelims exam. Although from a mains point of view, this is not so important, but from a prelims point of view, this is important. Similarly, nominated members. Now there are 12 nominated members to the Rajya Sabha. This is very important. I think UPSC have asked us in their prelims exam, and they can also ask in the mains exam that what is the use of nominated members. And it is slightly controversial because the ruling party gets to nominate the members, the 12 members. So this is the whole idea. And in the Lok Sabha elections, we have had a change that now the Anglo-Indian community won't be represented, but that is election of the Lok Sabha. We'll stick to election of the Rajya Sabha. So someone has asked why Jammu and Delhi is represented in Rajya Sabha. It is solely because of population, and the number of seats in Rajya Sabha is relatively less to the Lok Sabha. It is almost half. So that is why, uh, for example, Delhi has more than 2 crores to 3 crores of population. Jammu Kashmir has 2-3 crores of population. So that is why they have been represented in the Rajya Sabha and not the other union territories. So Daman Diu, it has very less population, I think 20-25 lakhs. So even Puducherry is having substantial population. So the basic idea is population only. That is the whole idea. And the small UTs, they variably get represented. They are already under central government. So basically, they are not states, so they do not form a part of the states also. Whereas the Rajya Sabha was basically to protect the interest of the states also. So that is the second reason. Now, President nominates 12 members to Rajya Sabha. This is very important that they have special knowledge or practical experience in these 4 fields. So again, UPSC in prelims exam may give you a kind of 5th field, that maybe sports is there, because a lot of sports personalities have been nominated in Rajya Sabha. So, but through the constitution, we have only 4 areas from which the members can be nominated. Although this social service area is a very big thing, and it is very vague and open-ended. So anybody can say that, I have done some social service, so I can be nominated in the Rajya Sabha. So they can take this route of nominating any person, because this is a relatively open area. So science is a bit restricted, literature is a bit restricted, and art is also, to a certain extent, it is also vague. For example, we have members like Rekha being nominated to Rajya Sabha. Sachin Tendulkar was nominated. So Sachin Tendulkar was put under the social service category. So the whole idea of nominating the members to Rajya Sabha is that to have a better discussion in the parliament. Many eminent people may not like to fight the elections, because elections is having money power, uh, brute power, and then it is very difficult to fight elections. Many people do not want to go and seek out votes, do all the efforts. They may not have the teams. So people like that also, but for the in the greater interest of the society, we need to have those eminent people in parliament, so that the quality of discussion goes up and they can guide the parliament in taking certain decisions. So Rajya Sabha members also form a part of various committees of the parliament. So eminent members, if they are part of the Rajya Sabha, they can contribute in accountability of the executive also. So one of the function of the parliament is to hold the executive accountable, the 3 pillars. So one of the pillars is parliament. It needs to hold the executive accountable. So for that, we need persons who are qualified in holding the executive accountable. So for that, a special provision has been made that president has the discretion to nominate 12 members to the Rajya Sabha. Okay? So now, obviously, president will act on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. So yes, a civil servant can also be part of the 12 members. In fact, there have been many civil servants who have been nominated. So civil servant can also be a part of those 12 members, because they have done a lot of social service. So yes, they can be part of the Rajya Sabha. So this was the whole idea of nomination in the Rajya Sabha, so that eminent people get representation. We can have a better discussion in the parliament, and they can contribute to the functioning of the parliament. Because, for example, M.S. Swaminathan was there, the agricultural scientist. So he was there as a part of the Rajya Sabha, and he was nominated. So he held, chair in many committees on agriculture and all, and he contributed a lot. So this was the whole idea, that not many people would like to fight the elections. Now, this is also slightly important from a prelims point of view, is that what is the qualification of becoming a Rajya Sabha member? So the first and the obvious one is that he should be a citizen of India, because we do not want people of other countries to come and change our policies. So we need our own thought, and our own national interest should be there. So that is a citizen of India is important, not resident. So in prelims exam, they can, give the sentence like a resident of India can be part of the parliament. No, only a citizen can be a part of the parliament. So you need to remember. Although in a general discussion, we all may remember, but during the time of examination, we may get confused. So this is an important thing, that a person needs to be a citizen of India. Then he needs to make an oath. So this is a very normal thing. For the Rajya Sabha, we have 30 years as the minimum age, whereas in the Lok Sabha, we have 25 years. So now again, this is also slightly important. We need to remember this fact for the prelims exam. In the mains exam, this does not have so much of importance, but from a prelims exam, the UPSC can twist the kind of sentences that we have. So 30 is the minimum age of becoming a Rajya Sabha member. So, but the government or the parliament can impose certain other qualifications also by passing the act of the parliament, which can regulate the qualification and the various provisions of becoming a member. So, in a similar manner, all of you must have heard this act, RPA, the Representation of People Act 1951. It is a very important act for conducting elections in India, and it gives election commission a lot of powers to frame the rules, bylaws of holding the election. Okay? So this is a very important act, and it has been specifically mentioned in the mains syllabus also. And lastly, what we have seen in the trend of UPSC exam is that they are asking the various important provisions of RPA also in the mains, the certain controversial ones, or in the ones in which Supreme Court has given very recent judgments. So that is why this act is very important. So as per the rules of this, he must be registered as an elector for parliamentary constitutions in India. That is basically he must have a voter card, and he should be there in the electoral roll of any particular constituency anywhere in India. So suppose, for example, if I want to fight elections in Karnataka, so I can be registered as a voter in Bihar, or let's say Rajasthan or Jammu Kashmir, anywhere. So the rule that he needs to be a resident of the state is not there. It was removed in 2003. So before that, if you remember that Dr. Manmohan Singh has been a parliamentarian since 1980s and 1990s. So he has never fought any election. So he was a Rajya Sabha member from the state of Assam. So although he has been born and brought up in Punjab and Delhi, but he was a Rajya Sabha member from Assam, and he was a voter of that particular state. So basically, he had taken a house in rent, and a voter card was made in his name in Assam. So he used to contest the election from Assam for a very, very long time. So earlier, prior to 2003, the rule was that if you're fighting from that state, you need to be a voter of that state only. So for example, if I want to fight Rajya Sabha elections from, let's say, Karnataka, it means that I need to be a voter registered in Karnataka. So, but this rule was done away in 2003. So this is a very, very important point from a prelims point of view. Similarly, what we have in Lok Sabha. So Lok Sabha also does not have this rule. It never had this rule. Earlier, this rule was there that the person of that state should represent that state to keep the interest of that state. So for example, if a person from Bihar has won from Karnataka, so the whole idea was that he may not keep the interest of Karnataka in mind while voting in the Rajya Sabha or while participating in the Rajya Sabha proceedings. So that was the whole idea before that. A person of that state should be there in the Rajya Sabha. So it should be same. But now that rule has been done away. Okay. So this is very important. So for example, we have our finance minister. Although she is from Tamil Nadu, but she is a Rajya Sabha member from Karnataka. Okay. Now this is one of the again rules that is prescribed in the parliament, that he must be proposed by at least 10 members or 10% of the party strength in house, whichever is less. ठीक है. Now this has been done so that there is not a flurry of candidates. So if the criteria is not there, then anybody will, just to create a nuisance or just to fight the elections, everybody will try to contest the Rajya Sabha elections. So to prevent that, we have this rule. One minute. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
If you could raise your hand or type a message in the chat box. Okay, thank you. So basically, it means that at least 10 members of the assembly should propose the name so that unnecessary people are not contesting the elections. So that is the whole idea, to prevent the miscreants. So there are many people who will fight in the Lok Sabha also. They will not get even 30 votes. Even there was a very interesting case in 2000, I think 2019, that a person contested the election and in his own house there were around 25-30 people and he could hardly secure 10 to 12 votes. So he was crying that even my own family members did not vote for me. So that kind of persons are also there. So to prevent those kind of persons in fighting the Rajya Sabha elections, because they will anyways be voted by a very small electoral college. So it is seen that at least the electoral college, which is the MLAs, so at least they know the person. So that is why at least 10 people are the at least 10 people should propose the name. So for example, if you have, let's take the case of let's say Jharkhand Assembly. So in Jharkhand there are 70 members, 70 MLAs. So out of those 70 MLAs, 10 should propose the name of a particular person. So but this is generally all organized by the political party. So let's say a political party, let's say we have BJP or Congress. So the person who is managing this stuff, they will get the proposal signed by all the 10 members, by those 10 members, or they will have a deal with the opposition or something like that. So this was the qualification as per. So this is as per the Representation of People Act, but the Parliament has only these three conditions. Constitution has only these three conditions, and this is by Act of Parliament. Now, disqualification is also slightly important, and I'll try to quickly cover this also. So, if he holds any office of profit, then he will be disqualified. I'll explain what is office of profit. Unsound mind, that a little bit mentally challenged, or he has subsequently become senile, so that's sort of. But he has to be declared by a court. So, a court will generally appoint a medical committee, and the medical committee will give a report that okay, the person is not in a state of mind. So that is why he should not be. He's not fit for taking decisions and speaking and all. Then he's an undischarged insolvent. So undischarged insolvent basically means against whom insolvency proceedings are pending. So the whole idea of bringing in this kind of provision was that if suppose somebody is, अगर कोई बहुत गरीब है या किसी के खिलाफ कोई केस चल रहा है, तो वो कुछ भी पैसे वैसे लेके कुछ भी वोटिंग या डिसीजन ले सकता है. तो इससे क्या होता है कि डिसीजन मेकिंग अफेक्ट होती है. So the independence of a member of parliament will get affected. So that is why this provision is there, that who is on the verge of bankruptcy or against whom the bankruptcy proceedings are going on. So there is a likelihood, there is a possibility that that person may take money from vested interest and will try to speak on those lines and not in the interest of the nation. So that is why this provision is there. So that is the whole idea. This is also there in Lok Sabha, and this is also there in many other cases. For example, in the voting of president, in vice president, in speaker of Lok Sabha, this provision is there in Supreme Court judges, so that the independence of that particular functionary is remained intact. So he's not affected by any other thing. Okay. Then office of profit basically means that office of profit is also the same thing. So now let us take the example of, let us take the two things. So on one hand, we have the executive. On one hand, we have the parliament. So the job of the parliament is to hold the executive accountable. The job of the parliament is to hold the executive accountable. Now for that, what we need is that the parliamentarians are independent. They are not affected by lure of the executive. Now what the executive often tries to do is that they will give many indirect posts to the parliamentarians or some benefits to the parliamentarians so that they do not raise questions against the government in the parliament. So this is the office of profit. So if the executive is giving some parliamentarian some office of profit, which causes profit to that particular legislature, that particular parliamentarian, then his independence will get affected. So once, to prevent the independence of that parliamentarian and to do his job independently, we have this office of profit. So if any parliamentarian has accepted, if he has joined in any office of profit, then he will get disqualified. Okay? He will get disqualified. So this is a very important bill that has been created. So because we had seen in 1970s, 80s, and also to some extent in 1990s, that many governments, many executives were trying to lure the parliamentarians. So it was felt that some kind of protection for parliament and some kind of mechanism should be there so that parliamentarians are not swayed by the executive. They are not lured by the executive, and they maintain their independence. So this was the whole idea of office of profit. So there are some exceptions. For example, a minister will not be called the office of profit because obviously he is part of the executive, and there are other offices exempted by the parliament also. So there was some problem regarding the UPA president also, that what is NAC, the National Advisory Council. So she was the chairperson of that. So there were some problems regarding this. So Jaya Bachchan case, if you all remember the very classical case of Jaya Bachchan, that she accepted some UP Film Development Committee or UP Film Development Corporation. She was made the MD. So this was wrong because you are trying to hold the UP government accountable, but you are also accepting a position under the UP government. So it means that your independence or your biases is not there. So that is why there was a proceedings against her. Now another rule is that if he's not a citizen of India, for example, let's take the case of, let's say, Shashi Tharoor. So if he's a Rajya Sabha member, but he goes on to take the membership of the citizenship of US, so he'll be disqualified. Okay? If he's disqualified by any parliament made by law. So this is also there. Okay? So the president's decision is final. However, the case will be referred to the election commission, and the opinion of election commission is binding. So basically the election commission will decide if there is any disqualification under this act. Okay? So this is also slightly important, and in the prelims they may ask the question that who decides all these proceedings and all. Similarly, these are also the disqualifications. I'll just quickly read, although there are chances that they'll not ask. So the office of profit was important, but not this. So election offenses are there, that distribution of liquor, distribution of cash. So those kind of offenses should not be there. He should not be convicted for any offense. So this was the RP Act was amended as per the guidelines of the Supreme Court. Then account of election expenses, because there is a limit, the expenditure ceiling is there, that a particular candidate can spend only this much. So it should not be there. He should not be a contractor or some kind of government contract is not there. Again, because of the executive and parliament segregation. That if parliamentarian is somewhat dependent on executive, he will not perform his job independently. So to prevent that, this provision is there. Okay? Office of profit in a corporation in which government has a share. He must not be dismissed for the government service for corruption, because he has again shown that he is prone to, or he's prone to corruption. So again, if he becomes a part of the parliamentarian, then he will not perform his job effectively. So that is why this provision is there. So promoting, enmity between two groups. So again, because he will create a ruckus and he will vote on those legislations, or he will speak in a manner which will create tensions in the society. So social crimes such as untouchability, dowry and sucking, although this is not used so much. Yeah. So these are the various provisions, although not so important, but you need to remember that there are certain disqualifications under this act also. So this act is very important. Then defection is also there. So disqualification, we have the defection also. All of must have heard the term called Ayaram Gayaram. So Ayaram Gayaram is nothing but people shifting the political parties as per the lure or as per the need or through money power. So this is the defection. So if a person does something which falls under the category of defection, he will be disqualified even after being selected as the member. So this is there. So you can just take a brief look. I think this will be dealt separately in the parliament chapter. So presently we'll focus on the Rajya Sabha, but I thought you should know that he can be disqualified under defection also. Now we'll come to the most important part, that how the election in the Lok Sabha and how the election in the Rajya Sabha is different. So now our real game begins, that how the election is different from Lok Sabha. So in the Lok Sabha, what we have is the system of first past the post. That, for example, if 10,000 people are voting, so anybody getting the maximum votes out of 10,000, he will win. So let's say if a particular person gets 1,500 votes, but all the other candidates are getting less than 1,500 votes, so he will still win the elections. So that is there. So what we have seen in the recent year is that a person securing 35-40% vote share, he will win the elections. So that is why what we have is the common problem with Lok Sabha, that is the vote bank problem. So people are having their own vote bank and they rely on those vote bank to ensure that they will pass. So they will not care about the rest of the society, rest of the part of the society. They just want that I should get 30-40% votes and I should be able to win the elections. So that is it. So in the Lok Sabha, what we have is, for example, we have, let's say Bihar. So Bihar has been divided into 40 territorial constituencies. So this has been done as per the population of the districts and all. So territorial constituencies are there. So a constituency may have 2 or 3 districts in Lok Sabha. Okay, so that is also there. Constituency is different from district. Please remember this. Okay. From a normal state district that we have, it is different from district. But in the Rajya Sabha, what we have is system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. Okay. So as you can see, we'll see also that the Lok Sabha election is very easy, whereas the Rajya Sabha election is a bit complicated. So that is why for the majority of the people, we have the simple majority, that is the territorial representation and first past the post system. Okay. So in the Lok Sabha, what we have is people represent a particular geographical area called a constituency. Whereas in the Rajya Sabha, the person does not represent a particular area, he will represent a state. So that is one of the difference between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. At Lok Sabha, the parliamentarian will represent a particular constituency, but in case of Rajya Sabha, he will represent a state. Okay. So that is why we have a single member constituency. But in the Rajya Sabha, there is no single member constituency. He is member of the state. So that is the difference between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And in the Lok Sabha, the whoever security the majority of the votes is declared elected. For example, we have 3 candidates, and if a person has got the maximum number of votes, he will win the election. So it is a very simple mechanism. Now, in the case of proportional representation, what we have is that to remove the defects of the territorial representation, what we have is the proportional representation. Okay? So, proportional representation gives the representation to all the section of the society. So, generally what we see is that, for example, if there are 100 members, out of that there are 3 categories, let's say 40, 40 and 20. So if we take a look at the proportional representation, what we'll see that each of those person will get elected, member of those community. So that is there. So that is why proportional representation, what it does is that in proportion to the number, in proportion to the community, so in proportion to their number, the people will get nominated. But whereas in the simple majority, this does not represent the whole electorate. Again, that was I was saying that a person securing 40% of the votes, he will get elected, but he does not represent the rest of the 60 because they have not voted for him. Whereas in the proportional representation, we'll see that. So in proportion to their members of the society, the representation will be there in the legislature. So it is also used, the proportional system is also used in MLC elections, that is the state legislative council, the president and the vice president. Okay. MLC elections is again slightly complicated, that will deal in the state legislature portion that we'll study in the later part of our course. So although some members of the constituency assembly wanted proportional representation, but the proportional representation is very complicated and it is also a very costly affair and it is not suitable for a very large country like India. So that is why the proportional representation was restricted to only certain areas and it is not universal in India. We have the simple majority, that is the first past the post system which is there. Okay. So similarly, this is very important from a mains point of view, although in prelims you just need to know what is the basic concept of proportional representation. We'll exactly calculate how proportional representation works in the later part of the topic. So this is basically to avoid the principle of majority. The polling for the exact polling will be held if only the number of seats are exceed the number of candidates number exceeds the number of vacancies. Now, since the strength of each party in assembly is known, it is slightly easy to determine or to guess who will win the Rajya Sabha elections. For example, if the BJP is having 120 seats in 170 seat legislature, for example, let's say Gujarat, if Gujarat has 175 seats, let's say, and if BJP is having 120 and the rest of the parties is, let's say Congress is having 50, so it is known that if there are election of 4 members, then 3 will be of BJP and 1 the Congress will get. So that is why it is slightly easy to predict the probability of winning, which is not there in the Lok Sabha. So if let's say there are 4 filled up and the ruling party commands 2/3 majority and opposition 1/3, it means that election will go 3 seats to 1 in the favor of ruling. So that is it. I'll share the presentation with all of you. It will also be there on our website. Now, this is the real challenge, that is the single transferable vote. What exactly is single transferable vote? So, in single transferable vote, what we generally do is, so I'll take now this is a sample ballot paper of a Rajya Sabha election. So candidates, the MLAs vote in the Rajya Sabha elections. So what they will do is that the candidate's name is given. So basically, this name will be given, and you have to fill this 1, 2, 3. That who is your first preference? For example, my first preference will be Mohammed Iqbal. My second preference will be Ramesh Kumar, and my third preference will be Narsingh. So that is how. So, for example, if we have a candidate list of 6 members, so you have to necessarily mark 1 to 6. You have to mark 1 to 6. Otherwise, your vote will be invalidated. So this is there. So people have to give their preference, that who is your preference in the elections. So this is the order of preference, and this is a very important that MLAs have to use a violet color sketch pen which will be provided at the voting table. If the MLA marks with another pen, the vote will be invalid. Okay, so this is very important that while filling this 1, 2, 3, one second, I think there is some problem. One second, I'll mute some members. There are some. Yeah, so this is there. So people have to give their preferences. Now, what happens is that, let's say Narsingh Yadav has got third preference from many of the MLAs. So what his vote will be taken off, and the proportion of his preferences will be given to the other people. Okay, so that is there. So it is a slightly a bit complicated. We'll take a look. So this is the sample ballot paper. So basically, the whole idea is that your first preference vote should be the maximum to win the elections. Okay? So the first preference means you should get the first preference in. There is a quota that is calculated, so you have to cross that barrier. So once you cross that barrier, you are elected in the Rajya Sabha. Okay? So it is possible that you get more than what you. So the vote is transferred when the candidate obtains more than what is required for the success. Okay? And the vote is also transferred when the candidate has polled very few votes. He has no chance of winning the elections. So in those cases, their votes is transferred to the other people. Okay? We'll take a look at this in the subsequent part of the topic. We'll exactly see how this works out. So Rajya Sabha is also very unique because it is limited open ballot. So prior to 2003, what we had is that the Rajya Sabha election was closed ballot. Now you can all imagine what will happen if there was closed ballot elections. So lot of cross votings. So people of one party will vote for another party for money or for power, whatever the reason may be. So there was lot of allegation and there was lot of malpractices before 2003. Okay? So this was the problem in Rajya Sabha because the ballot was closed. But 2003 onwards, what we have is a limited open ballot. So what a candidate or a MLA will do is after he votes, he will show his ballot paper to an agent of the political party. The authorized agent is nominated by the political party. He will show his ballot paper to the agent of the political party. Now, Supreme Court has held it to be valid, that this is a valid practice. In the interest of democracy, in the interest of transparency and reducing malpractices, this is a valid practice. Okay? Now, what happens if a particular person does not vote as per the party's preferences? Then he will not be disqualified, but the action can be taken by the political party themselves. So now this is a very, very important rule, that he will not get disqualified automatically in terms of anti-defection laws, but what will the political party can take a decision against his removal or his disqualification from the party. So that is up to the political party to decide, and not the election commission or president or speaker. He will not decide. They will not decide. The political party will decide. For example, let's say we have X political party and they said that you vote for our candidates, but that particular MLA went and voted for Y party's candidates. So in that case, the election commission, the president, the governor, speaker, they will not do anything. The political party will decide that what has to be done against that particular MLA. Okay? Now, this is also very important, that showing a marked ballot to anyone other than own party's agent will render the vote invalid. Okay? Now, this is also very important. And once the vote is invalid, it will have very serious implications. So that is why the MLA only has to show to a particular person who is the authorized agent of the political party. So independent candidates are barred from showing their ballots to anyone because they are independent and they are not affiliated to any political party. So they need not show it to any other person. Now, these are some of the malpractices, and it is very funny also that people do this kind of stuff indirectly. So what we had in one state, if I remember it correctly, I know that it is Jharkhand. So what we had in Jharkhand was that, so in fight for Rajya Sabha election, one MLA of the opposition party was detained by the police on the voting day. So this was done by the ruling party. So a very old FIR was there. So suddenly police issued a notice, non-bailable warrant, and they arrested the person. Although it was incorrect detention, but then they arrested the person and they prevented him from going to the assembly. And because of that one particular vote, the ruling party won one extra seat because of that one particular MLA, because it was a very close fight. It was a very close election. So this is how the ruling party misused the police power and they won the Rajya Sabha election. In one case, voter MLA deliberately showed his ballot paper to everyone in the room. Now this is obviously done, we can assume that it is done deliberately. Okay? So his vote was invalid. So again, it will help the opposition party to win the seats. In another case, the voter MLA accidentally used his personal pen instead of black color instead of the mandated violet color sketch pen. Now this is a very strict rule, and it is also very controversial that why only a particular pen has to be chosen for marking. You can mark it from any pen, but we have election commission and their rules. So what he obviously this was done deliberately, that he took out his own pen from the pocket and he gave the preference 1, 2, 3, 4. So then his vote was deemed to be invalid. So his vote was invalid. Now this is a very, very, very special case, and I think this is the most unique one, is that in Haryana, what a particular MLA did is, so there is a table which is kept in the room. So when he went for his own voting, he brought the violet pen with him. He brought his own violet pen with him, and he kept some other pen in the table. So now the next of the candidates may not know. So they voted from that particular pen of the candidate, and as a result, 12 votes were invalidated. Now this is some level of very serious smartness that the MLA has done. So he brought the pen which was kept at the table, and the later candidates, they gave the preferences from their own pens, and 12 votes were rendered invalid till someone find out that okay, why are we not using this particular pen? So MLAs often resign before the Rajya Sabha elections to give advantage to the opposition political parties. Then in the Rajya Sabha election, it is also alleged that prominent businessmen are given the Rajya Sabha seats. It is, I do not wish to say this word. I wish that I did not say this word, but often it is told that these seats are sold. These seats are sold to big businesses for party funds and maybe some personal gains and all. So this is some of the malpractices which are there in the Rajya Sabha elections. Now regarding the none of the above, does none of the above work in the Rajya Sabha? So Election Commission thought that we should also give a option to the MLAs to choose the nota button, because you are giving preferences. Maybe you are not agreeing with the preferences. So that is it. That is why the nota button was given to the Rajya Sabha members. Okay? But Supreme Court in 2018 had struck down this provision that none of the option is only for the universal adult suffrage, and it cannot be given on the indirect elections such as proportional representation. Therefore, there is no nota in Rajya Sabha elections, and this is a very important question from a prelims point of view. You should remember this, that there is no nota in the Rajya Sabha elections, because the Supreme Court has held that in indirect elections such as in proportional representation, there cannot be any nota. None of the above. So there is no none of the above in the Rajya Sabha elections. So members have to necessarily give a preference. Now, does cross voting affect disqualification? As we discussed earlier, that if a person is not voting as per the preference of the political party, anti-defection law will not be applicable on the particular person. Okay? Anti-defection law will not be there, and it is up to the political party to take the necessary action. Okay? So this is there. Now, this was one of the examples. This is the basic formula that we have for the Rajya Sabha election. So as you can see that this is slightly maths and all is there, and this is a bit complicated. Okay? So now to calculate, now this is a case when there is only one seat for the election has to be held. Okay? So obviously there will so there is only one seat, but let's say we have 2 or 3 candidates. So in that case, what will happen is that votes needed to win. We have to calculate this vote needed to win. So that is why do MLAs vote invalid votes? It's because we only take the valid vote cast. So they will deliberately try to do what they will deliberately try to do is that they will make their votes invalid by showing to other people their own ballots. So all this. So now let's say, for example, in a 65 votes is cast and the seats to fill is 1. So this is the formula: seats to fill 1 plus 1 and plus 1. So basically 65 divided by 2 plus 1. So which will amount to 33.5. Now rounding it off, it will become 34. So I think this should be 34. So a person should secure minimum 34 first preference vote to win the election. Okay? So this is the whole idea. This is the whole concept, how this system works. So out of 65, you need a minimum 34 MLAs voting as the first preference. So in your name against your candidate's name, at least one should be mentioned. As we had seen in the ballot paper, one should be mentioned in 34 seats, 34 papers. So that is the whole idea. So now what happens is, if you reduce the valid votes, for example, it becomes, let's say 5 members deliberately did not vote validly. So then it will become 60. It will become 60 divided by 2 plus 1. Okay? So that will become 31. So now you can see that by making it 31, the numbers come down. So that is why the dirty MLAs, what they'll do is that they'll make their vote invalid, so that the a candidate becomes easy for a candidate to secure 31 votes. किसी के लिए आसान हो जाता है वो 31 votes secure करना. इसीलिए valid vote कास्ट कम करने की कोशिश होती है. ऑपोजिशन का वोट, जैसे जो रूलिंग पार्टी है वो ये ट्राई करता है कि ऑपोजिशन का जो वोट है वो रिड्यूस हो जाए, वैलिड वोट कम से कम पड़े ताकि हम खुद जीत सकें। ये होल आइडिया होता है। आपको ये ज्यादा क्लियर होगा नेक्स्ट वाले में। जब एक सीट से ज्यादा होती है, what happens if like let's say 2 or 3 seats are to be filled. Now इसको थोड़ा सा आराम से देखिएगा, this is important. Now each ballot paper is deemed to be a value of having 100. ठीक है? So for example, let's say let's take the case of Jharkhand Assembly. So in Jharkhand Assembly we have 70 seats, 70 MLAs. So the total votes will be 70 into 100, that is the 70,000. That will be the total votes. Now how is it calculated? For example, let's say if a particular house is having 176 members, for example, let's say Gujarat, if Gujarat is having 176 seats, so then 176 will be multiplied by 100. Okay? Then number of seats to be filled is 3, and plus 1 is added as per the formula, and then this will be divided, and then again plus 1 will be there. So if we do the calculation, we have 44 plus 1, that is 4401. So out of 17600, a person should have the first preference vote more than 4400. Okay? So candidate has to get the minimum of votes of first preferential vote. Okay? So that basically means is that around 45 MLAs should vote in your favor. Minimum of 45 MLAs should vote in your favor to win the elections. Okay? So this is the formula. I'll just again show the formula, and we'll share the slides so you can you can write it down also, you will see in the slide also. So valid votes cast, again the 176 into 100 is done. Then seats to be filled, 3 seats are to be filled. Then this is the formula, plus 1 plus 1. So this is the minimum quota that is required to win the elections. So now as you can see that this is a very slightly complicated process, and in a very large country of India, where in one parliamentary constituency we have 20-30 lakh people voting. So this will become very, very, very tedious, difficult, and also impractical. So that is why we chose a lesser evil, which is the first past of the post. We all know that the first past post system is not ideal. It is not very good, but it is very practical and it is very simple. It is very simple to conduct elections in such manner. So that is why we have the first past of the post system and not the proportional representation. Now, generally what will happen is that the second round will not be conducted. So this is the first round. So let's say out of 176 we have the composition, for example, 120 and 56. Let's say this is BJP and this is Congress. Now just take this example, 176 we have 120 seats of BJP and 50 of Congress. Now the minimum qualification is 45 MLAs. So BJP will have 45 MLAs. Obviously it cannot win a third seat, but the Congress is having 56. So 1 seat will go to Congress and 2 seats will go to BJP. Now what the ruling party or the BJP will try to do is that they will try to reduce this 56 number to less than 45. So that is why we have all the malpractices, so that this number gets reduced. Now in case of this, what BJP needs to do is that they will try to bring down this number to 44 or 43. Now if only 43 out of this, let's say, what is the difference? So let's say they will try to sway the 13 members. Okay. So if the 13 MLAs of Congress is there, if they can deem their votes invalid, then the BJP can win the third seat also. So that is the whole politics. Now I think the idea is clear that why poaching, why money power, why the votes are held invalid. Now let's take the example of 130 seats. Okay. 1 second. Now let's say there are 130 seats with the BJP and we have 46 seats with the Congress. Now let us take the scenario. Now what BJP needs to do is they only need to reduce one member from Congress from, or maybe let's say 2 members of Congress from voting in favor of Congress. So only differential 2 is required. If the BJP gets, if the Congress gets less than 2, then there is a great chance that BJP will win all the 3 seats. So that is why all this dirty politics is done. So generally in the 97 or 98% of the cases, this will be clear. There is only one round of voting. There is no transfer of votes. So what happens if, let's say there are 3 seats to be filled and it is clear that 2 are elected, but however, 1 is remaining. 1 has not secured, let's say this number of votes. So what will happen is that the vote transfer will take place. The candidate with the least number of first preference votes is eliminated and his votes are transferred to the other parties. So for example, let us take the case of this. Now let us take the case of this. So now his votes, obviously this is one ballot paper, but some people will have voted Narsingh Yadav in the first preference and they may have marked these 2 in the second or third preference. So his vote will be taken out and the next preference will be given order. For example, what we have in the cadre allocation in UPSC, it is also similar to this only. So you give your preferences, but if seats are not there, you will be allotted the next one. So this is how it is done. So Narsingh Yadav will be eliminated. So Narsingh Yadav will be getting some first preference votes. So those will be taken out and will be distributed among Ramesh Kumar and Mohammad Iqbal. So that is how vote transfer is done. So this formula is very important. This formula is there for winning the election in the Rajya Sabha. And this is how it is used. So this is proportional representation by single transferable, means that if, for example, if you have representation in the assembly, then the likelihood of winning a seat for Rajya Sabha is great. So irrespective of the majority, people will win. Now readjustment was also there, although I'm just briefly covering it, but it will be dealt in the parliament chapter that we'll do. So readjustment is there. So readjustment is basically in terms of allocation of seats to the states and the division of each state into territorial constituency. So it basically means interstate and intrastate. Interstate and intrastate. So interstate means, for example, if Bihar is having 40 seats and it got in 1947, but the population of Bihar has grown tremendously. So the whole idea is that since the number of people have increased, the number of parliamentarians representing them should also increase. So that is the whole idea of readjustment. So the proportion of population should be there. So for example, the population was 20 lakhs and there was one MLA, one MP. Now the population has increased to 60 lakhs. So ideally what it should be done is that it should also increase to, let's say, 1 to 2, or it will not go to 3, but at least 1 to 2 should be there. But obviously this was opposed by the South Indian states, who said that we are implementing the population control measures very strictly and our population is not increasing. Whereas in North India, the population is increasing. So what will happen is that they will take away all these seats and we will not be left with anything. So if you perform better, you are getting punished. So that was the whole argument of the states. So that is why what we are having is that since 1976, the allocation of Lok Sabha seats interstate is not changing. Interstate it is not changing. Okay? So that is it. But intrastate it can change. For example, let's take the example of Delhi. For example, we have 7 seats in Delhi. So for example, if the central district reduces its population and it goes to the north, so what we can have is that the northern area will get reduced, or if we can give more seats to the northern district. So maybe let's say North Delhi will have 2 seats instead of 1. So that kind of thing can be done. but the number of seats to the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha will be the same. Okay, it will not change. It can change within the states, but it will not change. Interstate changes will not be there. It is frozen. Then it was extended for another 25 years, that is up to the year 2026, with the same objective of encouraging population limiting measures. What will happen is that, for example, the states like UP, Bihar, where the population or the fertility rate is very high, so they will claim more number of seats. So to prevent that, what we have is that it has been frozen. So interstate changes will not be there till 2026. Again, I am sure that in 2026, this will again get extended to another 25 years. Okay. So delimitation commission is there. So delimitation commission is a separate topic that will also be dealt. So delimitation commission will decide that how the changes has to be made and how the redrawing of the territorial constituencies has to be done. Okay. So it is constituted. It is not a permanent body, and it is constituted as and when the need arises. So this was about the Rajya Sabha elections. If you have any doubts, you can please ask the questions in the chat box. You can raise your questions in the chat box, or you can open your mic and speak also, if you have any doubt. I hope you enjoyed the class. You can. I hope it added something of value to your knowledge. Something more information was given to you. You can just say a chat box. So you can speak to us if you have any doubts relating to UPSC preparation also. Then you can ask the question. Any question. I'll be very happy to take.
राज्यसभा में एंग्लो इंडिया कमेटी के मेंबर्स नहीं होते?